You begin as a person, an innocent baby. And the moment you were born, your culture and your family and your environment and your educational system begins to form your belief system. And that could be detrimental. Because if your culture and your environment does not teach you the truth, then you will believe a lie, even about yourself. And your belief system becomes your personal philosophy, out of which you influence other people. And that's why the foundation of your public leadership is determined by your private belief system. And that is why I am teaching you carefully, line by line, to challenge your ideas about yourself. Because you came out of a history, just like I did, where we were formerly oppressed by colonial imperialism, which taught us some ideas that were not true about you. You were trained to be maids and yardmen and farmers and workers on plantations and serving tea and cooking for people. You were not trained to own a business and build a company and lead a country and buy your own oil field or invest in your own gold mine. It's always somebody else doing it, because you've been trained that you cannot and should not try to own an oil company. And so we accept the idea. So our philosophy says we cannot own that. So we have been trained to be an employee, not an employer. As a matter of fact, we've been so brainwashed by the wrong philosophy that we are afraid to own things. We are afraid of success. Even the religion we were taught reinforced our lack of self-belief. You know what you were taught for the last 100 years in religion. Your doctrine came from another country. Your belief system was imported by people who owned your forefathers. And they taught us songs to sing, didn't they? Songs like, I got a shoe, you got a shoe. All of God's people got a shoe. When I get to heaven, I'll put on my shoe. I'll walk all over God's heaven. Interesting song. So the enslaved, oppressed person sang that song. And they sang it to the master, the oppressor. They said to the master, I got a shoe and you got a shoe. Both of us are God's people. We got shoes. You wear yours now, I'll wear mine in heaven. That's a dumb song. But we sang that in churches and believed it. And even had the spirit on it. I got a shoe. That's a dumb song. What you're telling the master is, you prosper now, I'll stay poor now, I'll be rich later. Something's wrong with that philosophy. And so they make us afraid of prosperity. They say things like, you don't want to prosper, you might forget God. So stay poor and you'll stay humble before the Lord. Philosophy. As a man thinks, so he leads. So the pastor who comes out of that philosophy preaches to his people. Stay away from politics. Stay away from money. Stay away from power. Stay away from influence. Just hang on until Jesus comes. And that is what we preach. We actually preach to our people that they should not be leaders. And they should not own. And they should not have influence. And that's why the Creator sent me to talk to my cousin. You are a ruler. You are a owner. You are an employer. You can run any business. But you got to change your belief system. Let me show you a picture of a little boy. See that little boy? I wonder who he is. Can you tell me who he is? No one knows who he is. Just an innocent child. Remember, everybody is born as a person. This little boy came from a family, a broken home. His father abused him. His father was religious, but yet beat him, hurt him. And the little boy grew up with a twisted belief system about God. Let me show you who this little boy really is. That's the little boy. He looks so innocent, doesn't he? But the boy is really that man. That man was trapped in that boy.
Make any equation no problem with Chegg. Finish your semester strong with support customized to your courses. Get solutions with the snap of a pick, 24/7 expert help, and tools to understand any topic. Subscribe to Chegg and we'll help guide you from your first day to your final exam. Learn there's no limit to what you can do.
A major tech shock is coming. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Hurd, and tonight we have a remarkable story to share. If you own any stocks, or if you're planning to buy or sell in the weeks ahead, it is critical that you understand what's happening. My guest tonight is a former insider who's worked at the highest levels of the tech world, from Qualcomm to NXP Semiconductors. And if his latest warning proves correct, the next few months could be the most bizarre in recent memory. Soon, he says, the price you pay for everything from a car to your next smartphone to your grocery bills will soar. And we could be thrust into a new kind of crisis with empty shelves as far as the eye can see. Now, what does that mean for the markets and your money? To help answer that question, I've asked Jeff Brown to join us right here in the studio. As a top executive at Qualcomm and NXP, he's been at the forefront of every major tech development in recent memory. And he has developed a huge following, all because of his uncanny ability to anticipate what is going to happen next. And of course, how to profit. He covered Tesla in 2018 when its stock was still trading at a split-adjusted $59 before it soared over 1,400%. And Jeff told anyone who would listen to buy Bitcoin when it was just $240. Folks who did had the chance to make 270 times their money. His firm predicted the dot-com crash in 2000, the housing bubble in 2008, and now he has come forward to warn of a disturbing new trend, something
His name is Adolf Hitler. His philosophy was very serious because he believed in an idea that he picked up from the Romans. And I want to close this session talking about the Romans, because Papua New Guinea is ruled by the same ideas that the Romans had. Hitler believed that he was born and chosen by God to restore the Roman Empire. He believed that. He believed that he was created and born to bring back the glory of Rome, and therefore he had to subdue all of Europe, because Rome ruled the whole world from Africa all the way to England. Rome was the most powerful empire and kingdom in history. Rome was the first kingdom to colonize the whole world. No kingdom has ever arisen to be greater than Rome. Rome was the most successful colonization process in history. Rome ruled the whole known world of Europe. And Hitler believed that he was born to restore the glory of Rome. He called it Mein Kampf. Where did the Romans get their ideas from? And this is important to think about leadership. The Romans conquered the Greeks. The Greeks were the ones who invented the philosophy of leadership that control our world today. Please listen to me carefully. Because Jesus was born under the Roman Empire in a Roman colony controlled by Greek ideas. So don't miss this. The Greeks were the most influential philosophers in modern history. The Greeks were the ones who invented the ideas that control the world right now. As a matter of fact, the Roman Empire adopted the Greek philosophy when they invaded Greece. The Romans were so powerful that they conquered Greece and destroyed the Greek Empire, but they did not destroy the Greek libraries. The Romans are smart people. They took the Greek libraries and they adopted the Greek ideas and philosophy of leadership. And so the Romans became Greeks in thinking, but Romans in military power. I want to give you quickly why this is important to you in Papua New Guinea. Because Papua New Guinea is a product of the Romans. And Papua New Guinea was ruled by Greek ideas. And that's why we are having difficulty right now with the mentality of the Papua New Guinea people. So you have to listen carefully what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about your future and your past. The Greeks believed certain things about humanity and about leadership. The Romans adopted them, and the Europeans used them, and they colonized Papua New Guinea. And they used the same ideas of the Greeks to control Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is a very young country. You are still battling with Greek ideas. I'm going to prove it to you. Because every colonization process carried the Greek idea and subdued the people. What did the Greeks believe that's important to you? Write them down. Number one, the Greeks believed that leadership was a product of natural endowment. Very important words. The Greeks believed that leadership was a product of natural endowment. What does this mean? Some of you know about the Greek philosophers who changed the history of the world. Let me give you a few of their names. Plato, very powerful Greek thinker. Aristotle, very powerful Greek philosopher. Socrates, a very powerful Greek thinker. These are the kinds of thinkers who gave their ideas that control the world today. I always tell people that the world is ruled by dead men. Our countries today, including Papua New Guinea, is ruled by dead men. How? Because they left their ideas with us. Ideas outlive humans. And ideas are more powerful than death. And the Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle and Socrates, they invented an idea. Look at my lips, please. I'm going to quote one of their ideas. This is a Greek idea. Demokrata. Demokrata is a Greek word. The Greeks invented the idea of democracy. Democracy is not from the Bible, it's from Greece. The Greeks developed the idea of what they call politis. Politis is a Greek word. It means chief citizen. Politis. It's where we get our word politician from. It's a Greek idea. What's a politician? A politician, the Greek says, is a person that the people give their authority to and make them chief citizens over them. It's a Greek idea. It's when people give their power to one person and tell that person to lead them and to rule them. It's called the power of the people given to a chief citizen called a politis. Listen carefully, please. Jesus Christ was born under that policy. The Romans adopted the idea that leadership was a product of natural endowment. What do they mean by that? The Greeks believe that some people were born naturally endowed with certain distinguishing factors that made them superior to others. For example, listen carefully. The Greeks believe, number two, that leadership is a product of birth traits. Birth traits. What do we mean by that? The Greeks believe that certain people were born naturally endowed to be leaders because they had certain traits that made them superior to other humans. For example, the Greeks believed that if you were born with sharp nose and blonde hair and blue eyes and thin lips, you were automatically a leader. You can read this on the internet if you want to. It's all there. The Greeks believed that if you were born with fair skin, that means if your skin was light, fair, and you had sharp nose and blue eyes, and your hair was yellow or blonde, you were naturally a leader. You were chosen by the gods to be a leader. Now you know if that's true, there's no hope for me. I got a big nose. My eyes are brown. My skin is dark. And my hair ain't blonde. So the Greek says if you were born without sharp nose and light skin and blue eyes and blonde hair, then you were automatically a slave. The Greeks believed that. The Romans adopted it. And so there's no hope for you being a leader. You got the wrong skin, the wrong nose, the wrong eyes, and the wrong hair. Follow me? The Greeks also believed that leadership was a product of providence. Very important word, providence. Providence is referring to the gods. The Greeks believed in many different gods. And the Greeks believed that if the gods chose you to be a leader, then you were automatically superior to everyone else. If the gods did not choose you to be a leader, then you were automatically a slave and a follower for the rest of your life. In other words, the gods choose leaders. Well, think about it. So if you were born with dark skin and brown eyes and a big nose and thick lips, then the gods chose you to be a slave. That's what they taught. That's what they believed. That was their philosophy. The Romans adopted that philosophy. Let me give you one more the Greeks believed. The Greeks also believed that leadership is a product of charismatic personality. The word charismatic is a Greek word. It's the word charisma. Do you know what it means? It means gifts of the gods. Charisma, gifts of the gods. Charisma means the gifts that the God gave a person, which means they were very confident and they were very extroverted and they had a light personality and they were talkative and they were communicative and they had extroverted attitudes. They were exuberant. The Greeks say that was the gifts of the gods. So if you were quiet and timid and not extroverted, then the Greek says you are a slave. And this is why when the Romans conquered the Greeks and adopted this idea, they told the slaves, you must be seen but not heard. And I only supposed to see you when I need you, and you never speak. Leadership ideas. And finally, they believed that leadership was reserved for an elite group of people who were destined to be leaders in the world, and the rest of us were destined to be followers. I'm trying to teach you something that's very serious, because the Romans adopted these ideas and made them their culture. The Romans conquered all of Europe, from Africa to Scotland. They conquered the whole of Europe, and they implemented their ideas. So when they met people who were not like them, who didn't have blonde hair or light skin or sharp nose or blue eyes, then they automatically considered them subhumans. The Romans used the word for themselves. They said, we are superior, chosen by the gods. They called themselves the Aryan race.
This is me when I was 5, and my favorite dinosaur t-shirt made of cotton. Now, it's Violet's favorite t-shirt.
Vintage is just another word for fossil. Cotton, the fabric of Dad and Violet's Jurassic life.
You sing like a princess.
Now I'm going to give you the most important information today. Here it is. The Roman Empire ruled the entire known world, from Africa to Great Britain. The most powerful kingdom on earth under Caesar. They believed that they were chosen by the gods to rule the world. They believed they were handpicked by the gods with certain traits to dominate the world. They believed that they were superior to all other races. And that was in the Roman mentality. Do you know how Rome was defeated? No one could defeat Rome. It was the most powerful empire in history. It had the most powerful army in history. No country could defeat Rome militarily. It was so powerful that when Rome showed up, everybody bowed. And that's why you hear the statement, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. Wherever they went, they colonized the whole world. And Jesus Christ was born right in the middle of the Roman Empire. He was born in an empire which believed that he was automatically a slave. And that's why they treated the Jewish people through whom he came as dogs. Jesus Christ was born in a colony just like me. He was born subjugated by a powerful colonial power called Rome, just like you. He was taught that he was born to be a second-class citizen. He was taught that he was born to be subjected. He was taught that if some soldier in the Roman Empire asked you to take your cloak off and give it to them, you had to give them your clothes if they were cold. He was taught that when a Roman walked in, you stand up and bow. He was taught if the Roman gave you his shield to carry for a mile, you got to take it. He was taught if a Roman soldier got tired carrying his spear, he could say, here, take it for me, and you had to take it. He was taught that he was not a leader, he was a slave. He was born in a colony, just like you, just like me. Listen carefully. And that's the mystery of Jesus Christ. He was born under that culture, but never allowed the culture to be born in him. Let me explain Papua New Guinea. When the Roman Empire was defeated, it was not defeated by an army. It was defeated by what destroys most countries. The Roman Empire was destroyed by immorality. As a matter of fact, history teaches that the Roman Empire was destroyed by the loins of their leaders. Your loins are right here. Their sexual life destroyed them. They died from the inside. They decayed from immorality. 14 Caesars, 12 were homosexuals. They slept with boys, not women. They fell in love with their lust to the point where they became so immoral that they began to have men marrying men. It's as old as 2,000 years ago. They were destroyed by their lusts of the flesh. When a country begins to embrace immorality, their demise is on the way. When a country begins to sanction immoral acts that God condemned, don't worry about their country, they are dying. No matter how powerful your guns and military weapons are, if your morality becomes a cancer, your weapons become useless. And Rome died in the bedroom. And so the Roman Empire fell apart. It broke up through strife. Look at me, please. This is important. And when the Roman Empire fell apart, it broke up into small little kingdoms. It used to be one kingdom, but now it became many kingdoms. Let me name some of the kingdoms that the Roman Empire became. There was a kingdom called Franco. We call it France today. That was the Roman kingdom. The second kingdom was Spanian. We call it Spain today. It's a Roman kingdom. Another kingdom was called Portugal. We call it Portugal today. It was a Roman kingdom. Another kingdom that came from the Roman Empire was Anglo-Britannia. Anglo-Britannia. Great Britain is a Roman kingdom. We call them England today. Anglo. Light skin. Interesting, all of these kingdoms have the Roman philosophy. And they decided to expand their kingdoms. And so the French and the Spanish and the Portuguese and the British send their ships out. They are Roman in their minds, Greek in their thinking, and they come to take over territories. So they began to invade islands and continents. They came to the Caribbean. They came to Africa. They came to Central America. They went out to South America. And then they came to the Pacific. And they brought with them their philosophy. What's their philosophy? Greek. What does the Greek teach? They are superior, you are inferior. Your nose is big. Your skin is dark. Your hair is not blonde, and your eyes ain't blue. And your lips are thick. The gods gave you to me to be my slave. So why educate a slave? Why give a slave nice clothes? Why give a slave property? Why give a slave authority? Why give a slave money? Why give a slave a future? Philosophy. And so is the story of colonization. It's easy to sell a slave. After all, they're not chosen by the gods. Now let me say something very quickly before I wrap this up. Every philosophy comes from an ideology. Ideology means ideas. Every ideology needs a theology to justify it. So every time there's a philosophy and an ideology, there must be a theology to give it credibility. And this is why religion was used to even justify the ideology of superiority. Do you know what they taught us when I was a child? They said to me, "You fell out of the sky." We had no idea where we came from. We were taken away from our homeland and We had no history. And we'd ask the white teacher, where did we come from? And they would say, you fell out of the sky. You have no heritage. You are one of the fallen angels. Theology. They say, look, the Bible says that the beasts of the field shall carry water for you. You are the beast that God talked about. You will carry water for me. And they would teach this in Sunday school. Philosophy. And here we are now, still on the Democrat. 200 years of conviction that you are not equal to others. 200 years of miseducation that you cannot think sophisticatedly. 200 years of believing that others with certain traits are much more superior and more intelligent and better than you. Philosophy. And so they say, you must be quiet. You cannot speak much. You're not supposed to express your ideas. You keep your thoughts to yourself. Just make tea. You're not supposed to speak up when you see something going wrong. How dare you? You're not smart enough to see what is wrong. Leadership problems. Here's the biggest one. Since you were chosen by the gods to be followers, why waste my time on you, training you to be leaders? So if you study all the colonies in history, including mine, where I'm from, the colonizers never trained leaders. And what's amazing is when they finally abandon and leave you, they expect you to fail. And that's why they leave. They always say, well, of course, there are more of you than us, so we're going to get out of here in case you kill us. But we know you can't lead anyhow, so your country will fail. So they expect you to fail. Well, I don't understand that, because if you didn't train me, how can I succeed? And when you do fail, then they blame you and say, see, I told you, you ain't intelligent enough to succeed. They forget that my failure is proof of their failure. And that's why this leadership training series is important. I have come to correct 200 years of history. You are a leader. You can run this country. You can lead the world. Take a deep breath. Tell your neighbor, I was born to lead. Clap. I want to show you this before we go, because it's so important. All the world leaders, if you study them, they're all battling with these issues. And by the way, in one of my books, I did research on what happens to a people who have been oppressed for over 100 years. And I discovered that they all have the same problems. I used a case study of the children of Israel in Egypt. They were oppressed for 430 years. And when they finally came out of Egypt, they couldn't get Egypt out of them. And as soon as they got independence, or should I say deliverance from Egypt, under Moses. Moses was their leader, and even Moses had psychological problems. Remember, he was born in Egypt. But you'll remember that when they came out of Egypt, they didn't go into freedom. They was just delivered. Don't confuse deliverance with freedom. Papua New Guinea is not free yet. You are simply delivered. You are in the desert. And why does God take you to the desert? Because He doesn't want you to go into the promised land with Egypt in your mind. So He keeps you in the desert to try and change your mentality to think like a free person. Don't ever confuse independence with freedom. Independence is an opportunity to become free. It is not freedom. They were delivered from Egypt. They were independent from Egypt, but they still wasn't in the promised land. You are not yet in the New Guinea that God promised you yet. Because that Papua New Guinea requires a new kind of mentality. One day, my wife and I went to Egypt to visit, and we were in Israel for 10 days, and we caught our flight from Israel to Egypt. I will never forget my experience. We took off from Tel Aviv, and before I could fix my seatbelt, the announcement came over the PA system. Please prepare for landing. I became confused. We just took off, and we were landing. Now, I thought that Egypt was far away from Israel. And so I became confused. I said to the flight attendant, I said, excuse me, ma'am, is there a problem? She said, why? I said, why are we landing? She said, we are about to enter Cairo, Egypt. I said, but we just took off from Israel. She said, yes, sir. I said, but we didn't fly. She said, I know. I said, we're landing. She said, yes, we're landing. I said, wait a minute. It's only been 20 minutes. She says, yes. I said, wait a minute, lady. I was in Israel. That's Canaan, the promised land. And in 20 minutes, I'm in Egypt. She said, yes. I became confused. I started calculating. Let's see. 40 years. Why would it take 40 years to make a 20-minute journey? Interesting question. When we arrived in Egypt, we went to the hotel, put our bags down. Our guide came later that day to take us to see the pyramids and go to El-Aqsa and all the places of Egypt to see all the pharaohs, you know, the history and everything. And we went to the pyramids and everything, and it's beautiful. And we felt like we entered the Old Testament, because that's where the Old Testament, really, most of it took place. And I said to my guide, when we were driving, I said, sir, how far away are we from Israel? He said, depends on how you get there. I said, okay, if I drove in a car, how long would it take? He said, it'll take about 7 hours. I said, what if I walk from Egypt to Israel? He said, it'll take 40 days. I said, what about the aircraft? He said, 20 minutes. I began to calculate. I said, wait a minute. If I drove in a car on a bus, it's 7 hours. If I walked, it's 40 days. If I flew, it's 20 minutes. I went back to my hotel room, confused. I picked up my Bible. because I had to go and find out what happened. And the Bible says, and they left Egypt, headed toward the promised land. But God did not take them directly there. I'm quoting the Bible. Because they were afraid in their minds. So he led them the long way around to get Egypt out of their minds. Now here's my mystery. This is Egypt. This is the promised land. And it's only 40 days walk. Why would it take 40 years? And I was confused. That means he kept them going around in circles for 40 years. Do you know why? Because they kept telling Moses, we want to go back. At least we knew where onions came from. We knew where garlic. There were pots of food in Egypt. Let's go back to the British way. It's too hard to run your own country. It's too difficult to take responsibility for your own future. Take us back to a place where other people ran our lives. We didn't have to think. Take us back where they provided peanut butter and cheese. And God says, none of you will enter the promised land because you don't want to get rid of the Egypt thinking. So he led them for 30 years. Do you know why? Because 40 years is a generation. That means he kept them going in circles until he got what they were carrying. They were carrying the next generation. Joshua was not born in Egypt. He was born in the wilderness. Caleb was not born in Egypt. He was born in the wilderness. There are some people in this room who cannot make it to the promised land of the new Papua New Guinea. Why? They still want to go back. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the one right behind you. And this is why the young generation is the hope of Papua New Guinea. And I say to the older members of this great country, ask God to change your mind. Ask him to deliver you from the scent of oppression. Ask him to give you a miracle, not in your body, but in your mind. Because their mind kept them out of the promised land. It's amazing. God healed their body, but never took them to the promised land. He fed them food, but never took them to the promised land. He kept their clothes for 40 years, but never took them to the promised land. In other words, God will preserve you until he gets what you want from you, and then he'll kill you. If you don't want to change your mentality, he'll bury you in the desert. Moses never made it. Not even Moses made it. How close are you to the true Papua New Guinea? Can you see it? You know, 2 hours ago, I was sitting with your Prime Minister. We spent almost an hour together today. And I asked him a question 3 times. Same question. I said, Mr. Prime Minister, what is your vision for Papua New Guinea? What do you see as the new Papua New Guinea? And he talked about what he saw. He saw a country where everybody was educated, free education. He saw a country where people had good health and welfare. They were taken care of. Diseases were almost non-existent. He saw a country where opportunity for people to own companies and to build businesses and to have share in the investment of their country. He said, I see this. And I told him, then you need to educate. You need to provide free education for every child in Papua New Guinea. Because until their mind is free, they are stuck in the wilderness. Sitting in this room are some of the greatest leaders in the world. And I believe that with all my heart. You are an awesome leader, young woman. But you have to unlearn what you've been taught by history. You must be free from the Greek mentality and the Roman ideology. You must be set free from the spirit of colonization. And believe that you can govern this country effectively by God's help. I beg you today to be delivered from Greek philosophy, because I too was a victim. Now let me close with how I got delivered. You want to know how I got delivered? Traditional leadership teaches that leadership is controlling and imposing your will on people. That is not true leadership. Secular leadership says that leadership is management of people. Leadership means you are superior to the followers. They teach that leadership means that you are served by your followers. They teach that leadership is measured by how many people serve you. This is not leadership. Please go back and invest in those books, because until you get mentally free, you'll never make it to the new Papua New Guinea. The promised land is a beautiful one. I'm afraid for this country. This country has so much wealth in it now that we need true leaders to govern it. And that's why you're here today. Maybe God is preparing you to go into political life, to govern this country in the fear of God, intellectually stimulated by the truth about yourself, where you do not harm people for your own private ambition. Here's my philosophy of leadership. It's opposite to the Romans. Number one, I believe that trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. Number two, I believe that every human being was created to lead and designed to dominate. Number three, I believe leadership potential resides in every human being. Number four, I believe that you were born to lead, but you must become, through a process, a leader. And number five, I believe that true leadership is not doing things, but manifesting yourself. I believe with all my heart that the purpose for true leadership is not to maintain followers, but to produce other leaders. I believe these things as my philosophy. And that is why I travel around the world to come here to wake up the sleeping leader on the inside of you. My philosophy helps me set people free, not oppress people. My philosophy helps me believe in your equality, not your inferiority. Where did I get my philosophy from? I got it from the one who created all humanity. And here's the bottom line. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It says, and God said, let us make man, how? In our own image and in our likeness. Why? To let them have dominion over the fish and the birds and the animals and the trees and over all the earth and all that creeps upon the ground. Why did God create you? To have dominion. He didn't say let some of them have dominion. He said let all of them be dominators. Tell your neighbor, I'm a dominator by creation. Say it loud, I was born to dominate. Shout it loud, I was born to dominate. Tell your neighbor, I'm a dominator by birth. Tell your neighbor, I was designed to dominate. Come on, say it loud, I was born to dominate. God said, let them have dominion over the earth. So the purpose for your creation is dominion. And therefore, dominion is the most important word to you. Verse 27 says, so God created man in his own image. Watch this. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them and said unto them, have dominion. That means male and female are equal before God, and they are both dominators. Clap your hands anyhow.
Have you ever dreamed of winning a home that looks like this, this, and this?
My wife and I are equal, but different. She's a leader, and I am a leader, but we are different, but we are equal. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them and said unto them, both of them, have dominion. In other words, the word dominion is an important word. It tells you why you were created. I did some research for you. Write it down. The word dominion is the Hebrew word radah, R-A-D-A-H. And here's what it means. It means to govern, to rule, to control, to master, to manage, and to lead. In other words, God gave you birth to have dominion over the earth, to lead. And here's the bottom line. If God created you to have dominion, which means to govern, to rule, to control, to lead, to master, then that means he built into you the ability to do it. God built into the seed the ability to become a tree. But the seed could die as a seed. Because it's in the wrong environment. For 180 years, some of our countries have been in the wrong environment. We've been fed Greek ideas. And so we can't come forth. And that's why this leadership conference is here. Not to make you superior to anyone, to simply make you yourself. You are a leader, a dominator, a ruler, a governor, a master, a controller. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put it this way. He said, let them, which means male and female, every human being is a leader trapped on the inside. And here is the mystery of how it works. When I first met this beautiful lady, when I first saw her rather, Mother Teresa, before she died, what a woman. She was 4 feet 5 inches high. Little lady. She weighed 102 pounds. And she spoke to the United Nations. She was a nun. What made her so powerful? She discovered her gift. She discovered her purpose, her passion. Listen, please. Whatever you were born to be is trapped inside of you. If you notice what God did, God didn't just give you dominion. He specified what you should dominate. He said, have dominion over fish, birds, cattle, plants, and things that crawl on the ground. That means the only things you're supposed to dominate are fish. Check your neighbor, see if they have any fins. Come on, look around. Any fins? Any scales? Birds. Check your neighbor. Any feathers? Any beaks? Look around. Plants. Check your neighbor. Any leaves? Any roots coming out of their shoes? Things that crawl. Check your neighbor. Do they crawl on the ground on all fours? No. Then the only creature on earth that you are not commanded to dominate is another human. And that is why, in order for slavery to work, they must reduce you from being a human. And so they call you subhumans. Highly developed monkeys. Sophisticated chimpanzees. Intelligent gorillas. They just don't want to make you a man, a human. Why? If you're a human, they can't dominate you. So any attempt to control, master, rule, or dominate another human is completely ungodly. That includes even a pastor trying to dominate his members. You are not supposed to control your members. They are not your property. You are not to control and own anyone in your company. And so Jesus was living in a colony ruled by people who oppressed and dominated humans. His disciples, which means students, he was trying to change their thinking, just like we're doing today. And one day they were sitting down just like this, and he heard them talking to each other. And they were arguing, which one of us is the greatest? They must have been from Papua New Guinea. Always want to know who's in charge. Fighting over positions. And he said to them, "What are you discussing?" He heard them, and they were so embarrassed. He said, "Are you asking who's the greatest among you?" And the Bible says he called a little child. He says, "Come, baby." And he put a child in the middle of them. He said, "The greatest among you is like a child. A child never desires power. Two days later, he was sitting, having a meal, and two of his disciples came to him again, and they said, Mom, go and ask him if both of us could become deputy prime ministers when he become king of his kingdom. Forget the other 10. Make sure look out for ourselves, Mom." He listened to a woman. And their mother went to Jesus and said, "Sir, good master, will you make sure that my two boys sit on your right and your left when you come into your kingdom?" And Jesus was shocked. And he said, "Woman, first of all, you don't know what you're asking. You can't ask for leadership positions. He said, secondly, you shouldn't try to be like other people because you couldn't drink the cup they drink. The word cup means price. You couldn't pay the price for their position. Never be jealous of someone because you don't know what it cost them to get where they are. Can you drink the cup they drink? Leaders don't become jealous of other people's positions. And then he said these words: "To sit on my right and my left is not mine to give. These places belong to those for whom they have been determined by my Father." That means you can't even pray to Jesus for a position. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me. It's okay. Listen. Don't look at me. This is very important. And then he said these words: "You know that the Romans and the Greeks," I'm quoting Matthew chapter 20. "You know that the Romans and the Greeks love to lord it over one another and lord it over the people." The word lord means to own something. That's why you call your landlord landlord. It means owner. He says the rulers of this world love to own people like they are property. And there are some pastors who got that same spirit. These are my members. They ain't your members. The Apostle Peter says, pastors, do not lord it over God's flock. The same word Jesus used for the Romans. You don't control people. True leaders don't own people. They set people free to become great. He said, do not lord it over people like the Romans do. And then he says these words: "It shall not be like that among you. Because in my kingdom, if you want to be a great leader, you must become the servant of everybody." And that means true leaders serve their gift to everybody. It doesn't mean to become a subservient. It means to serve yourself to your generation, to give your gift to humanity. I'm doing that right now. This is my gift. My gift is training third world leaders. This is my gift. What is your gift? Because your gift is your area of leadership. And that's why great leaders never seek followers. They seek to serve themselves to their generation. He ends the seminar with this statement. He says, "Just like the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve himself, a ransom for many."
Thank you once again for listening to this message as we
appropriate to the Haiti situation, because I've reflected a lot about that, and what I concluded earlier was that the situation in Haiti was the fault of the churches, because God says that if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear their prayer and forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. So the healing of Haiti resides in the Haitian churches crying out to God, not from the UN, not from Washington, D.C., or from Paris, or from Port-au-Prince. Okay? So it's the situation belongs in the churches. The leaders, the pastors, have to start fasting and praying as an entity, and God will do. Because if God can find 10 righteous people, He will save the land. And I think that the fault, I could say, is the Haitian churches and the pastors, the leaders there in Haiti, you know, and that's so that give me a change of watching this now. Give me a change, a slight change of that. It's beyond. It's more than that. You know, more than that. You know. So.
Anyone else? If nobody saying anything, I will just say that in response or in reaction to Brother Peter. Do we realize what he said about the church, about the message, the religion that was brought to Haiti? What did he say to Haiti? He said that even the religion brought to the colonies, let's say Haiti as a colony, because he said that France is a Roman kingdom. And according to him, even the message that was brought to those colonies is a product of the Greek thinking, Greek philosophy. What does that mean? Do you agree? To what point, to what extent do you agree with that?
Blue eyes, we are already slaves, and then we went through slavery. So it's the philosophy that we all have in us. So we, even though we don't want to tell ourselves that we are subhuman, but we put ourselves because that's what we believe. So I believe when he said that it's everybody that have been colonized by one of the Roman empires, we all believe that we are slaves, or they treat us slaves because we were a slave before we get our independence anyway. So that's how I believe it.
Well, in this case, is it true or is it correct to say that the freedom, the independence, the salvation of the country depends on the religious people? Like our brother said, that they need to pray and fast, and then based on Brother Peter's talk, that referring to Haiti, that the leaders, the Christian, the pastors, and the leaders needs to pray and fast, and it's their fault if the country is in this condition. Is that true? Should we see it like this, according to what he said? And because listening to him, it's like even the foundation of what we have as a religion is biased, is skewed. That's what he said. Even though he is talking from a Christian perspective, he is not elevating the religion we are holding, we are upholding. I don't see that. Not that he's rejecting the teaching of Christ, but rejecting the establishment. Somehow the same way Jesus was rejecting the Jewish establishment. I think that's what he was doing here too. I don't know if you saw that. So that we cannot just come with a formula saying, oh, church should, pastors should, Bible teachers should, and that's the solution. He said no.
In our case, an AD, meditation, I think we need more than prayer. And we need to change our mind. This is very important. What's the problem?
And did you realize that his speech is not necessarily a biblical teaching per se, but rather an open speech based on the biblical values. But he wasn't preaching, he wasn't teaching. Not only he didn't take the time to study different texts, he names Jesus Christ about twice or three times. Did you realize that? He named Jesus Christ about three, 4 times, no more.
Yeah. And do you think he's supposed to
No, I'm not saying. I am just...
it's good.
Yeah, I'm just talking about it. Yeah. I'm asking you, what do you think? Did you realize that? That he didn't talk about Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. Very few times he named Jesus Christ. Okay. So, again, what do you think about the speech? And on a personal level. Okay. So do you think his vision of leadership, is it correct? Is it a strong proposition that we should embrace, we could embrace as Christians? And is there any suggestion, any proposition that he made that we will embrace ourselves? No, talk to this one and then ask you. Any suggestion, any proposition that he made that you think is worthy of embracing?
He said that they should have free education, free health care, and teach the people there to think differently, But is that okay? Well, yeah, but what I was going to say is that if I can critique a little bit what he said, if you read Genesis 1:26 carefully, there are two main ideas, not just one. He mentioned the dominion part, but the one thing he didn't mention was the image, okay? Because you cannot have dominion without having image. Image means you have to have the character, first of all. You have to be changed inside before you could change the outside, okay? Because when God made Adam and Eve, he made them in their image. No, but he emphasized dominion. I'm putting image first and dominion. You cannot rule. Like the Romans were ruling, but their character was so messed up they couldn't rule anymore. So if you don't have the character, the image, you can rule. And so God made them in their image. So it's two words. Image precedes dominion. Because if you don't have the image, when I mean image is the character, the qualities, the values. Okay? You cannot, you will have the wrong values, you will not dominate them. Okay? So image comes and then dominion comes after that. So he emphasized dominion, but the image part was, I think he mentioned it indirectly, but he should have made more of that more because image and dominion.
My other question, just to repeat your thinking, do you think in his approach, did he address the fall of man? Did he address that at all? Did he take this into account? Because he's asking people to change their mentality and to be governor, to be leader, to have dominion. And this will link kind of to what you said. Did he at all consider the situation of man as fallen creature? Did you see that? Not at all. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I don't think because it's a conference. He tried to lead them open their eyes to know this is who you are, and wake up. You sleeping. Now wake up to invert to use your gifts
to be yourself.
To be yourself. Yeah, and I guess I don't think it's a bad thing. He did it well.
Okay, I didn't say it's bad. I am just asking questions now to
I don't think, well, it is a leadership conference. Again, I didn't catch most of it, but I'm familiar with how Dr. Monroe speaks. So with it was a leadership conference, meaning in the sense of even if you're not Christian, that the topic of leadership isn't just biblical. It's the same way, I guess you could say. So anybody, he's saying you could be a leader, or you should design to be a leader. The same way, say in like the court of law, you don't have to be Christian to strive for the truth or justice. But there is an order to things so that everybody could get justice or the truth in what you need. In like an example, like the court of law. So with, I guess to answer your question, it wasn't, again, since it's not preaching, it wasn't biblical. It pulled from the Bible, but it wasn't a biblical revealing or something, or analysis, biblically speaking. So it's a concept that is pretty universal, that uses elements of the Bible to help support it, but it's not necessarily it is from the Bible. Aspects of leadership throughout Genesis, it's in the Bible. It just, I guess, concept in the Bible more fleshed out, not with a biblical background or perspective.
No, yeah, I agree with Benjamin, and the Bible is there. And when he used the situation of Israel, and about when Israel was in the
Desert.
desert, they look like they do the application.
Okay, my other question would be, until you were exposed to this presentation, have you been aware of the philosophical foundation, yes, of history, in the influence of the Greek and the Romans in history? Because according to his presentation, what we are living right now, everything we are living now is a product of the philosophy, Greek philosophy, embraced by the Romans, applied by the Romans. Have you been aware of that, and how does he change or affect your mind, your thoughts in this way?
Definitely. And me, I don't know if you agree with me. I don't think, like you said, Democrat. I don't think Democrat is something we can use every time, everywhere. And they use it badly. Example, in USA, I think Greek, when they mind and they can't go back to take something else. And for me, like you said, I'm aware about I learned a lot from this
Presentation.
There's also a message for this country as well, because we see the depravity that's rampant in this country, the immorality, and this country is rotten to the core. And the problem we have, even with the gay movement, what they've done, what Satan has done, is that they have people now identify themselves with their sexual norms. You know what I mean? God made you in his image, right? But now, a gay is not someone that's having an abnormal sexual relationship. That's what he is intrinsically. So when you criticize the gay, you criticize the person itself. See, in other words, they have identified their nature as what they do. Transgender is who I am. I'm a transgender. A gay, I'm a gay. That's who I am. I'm gay. You know what I mean? So that's really deep, because now, in a sense, if you as a Christian confront them, they say you discriminating because you're against my own nature. Because what am I? It's not in God's image. I'm a gay. Who am I? I'm a transgender. So now Satan has made that the fact that they're using their sinful thing as their own identity. That's something really that's beyond the norm, and that's really the country is going to spiral out of control. It's going because you're not gay, you're not born gay. You do gay stuff, but your nature is not that. You're born in the image of God. Gay is not your identity. Transgender is not your identity. So now they've identified that as their core. That's who I am. I'm gay. Okay? They're just like, I'm black. You're not. You have a color, but you're not black. You're a human being. You're not Indian. You're not this. You see? So when you identify yourself as anything else other than what God made you to be, as a Christian, as someone made in the image of God, then you really in a really dangerous territory.
Okay, any other comment? He touched, in fact, the question of immorality, the concept of immorality. And one aspect of immorality that he spent time on, or he explained a bit more, is actually sexuality. But is this the main or the only definition of immorality? When it comes to God and God's truth, God's values. For instance, if you look at this country right now, the question of sex orientation, it is an issue, a major issue in terms of morality. But even before this become a main issue, were there any other immorality, dominant immorality in this country? Anything we could consider that immoral and dominant in this society? Historically. Long. Mm-hmm.
You are not designed to lord over people, but over the creation. So people might say, in other words, you see, capitalism, okay, wrongly practiced, okay. Like I was in a firm myself where I see the people there abusing the workers, okay. Like in a swing line where they make staples, I worked there for once, and I was designed to pay people incentive. And what they would do is that they would, every time after 3 years when they have to give them promotion, they fire all of them. Okay? I see people crying, just to hire them at a lower rate. And then they told people that if they make a certain number of products, they pay them. I calculated them, some people make $5, $15, right? And they should be paid. The boss told me, if I pay them more than $3, he'll fire me. And he goes there to tell them to, you know what I mean? So, they're abusing mankind, and so that system itself. This is why this is capitalism in the wrong sense, not in the good sense where it can serve people. Was used in a sense to abuse people. And that's what I say.
So just to be sure, you said. Apart from sexual immorality, was there another common immorality? I mean, there are other immoralities, like Sakitlan said, with lying, stealing, taking advantage, things like that. But I think sexual immorality is more prevalent and more common. Not just in the U.S., but just globally. So it's something that it's not even just currently; it's throughout time. So I think just to answer your question, There are others, but this is the most common, I believe.
USA is the yeah, I would say the first country, the USA has the power. Everybody follow USA. That's what I would like to say. USA was a moral country, but now immoral. I think everybody gonna be USA, and good and bad thing too. Do you understand?
Well, talking about immorality and going back to the presentation, he concluded on about with this that God gave dominion to Adam and Eve, and he specified the field, what they should have dominion on, right? Animals, nature, plants, and etc., etc. Historically, what have we observed in this country? Not only in this country, but since we are referring to this society. Slavery. Slavery. When we say, for instance, that the country was moral and now it is immoral, at the core, at the foundation of this country was built on slavery. Is that true? Okay. Say it again? Debatable? Debate us.
Because, okay. Debatable. From the beginning, there was a lot of people see, there are some people that believe in that, others never believe in that. You know what I mean? And you remember also that more people died to get rid of slavery. The civil war in this country, the northern and the southern people, that really more people, a lot of people died from that because people didn't. You see, if you study American characters, you know, I'm talking about here. A lot of people there, some people have slaves, like leaders are slaves, but a lot of people there also didn't like that. Okay, they to the core, they were against that. They were afraid to say it. Not everybody agreed to that. So when you say to the core, you mean that's not true. There's a lot of Americans, even from the beginning, that didn't like that. You know, they didn't like slavery.
Caucasian American.
Huh?
Caucasian.
Well, Caucasian, yeah. A lot of them didn't like that. Okay? Didn't want it. A lot of Americans.
Well, we could say same thing about homosexuality. A lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, no, it's to the core.
Yeah, it is to the core because it was the law of the land. It was the law of the land. And still, until yesterday, it was still around. And discrimination persists on the same basis that he described here. They had to make a type of human being less than human in order to exploit them. And until yesterday, it was 65, they could not vote. It was 65, until the 60s, they could not vote. Because until the 60s, they could not enter any restaurant, any place. I know a lady here whose daughter became a principal. She grew up here. And the place where they had the reception, when the mother entered and she cried, and they said, why? She said, I know a few years ago, I will dare not come in here. I will not be allowed. Now today my daughter is being received as a principal. So she had lived it. So to say it was the core, it was the law of the land, not everybody agreed with it. Like today, many things that the United States is guilty of, many people don't agree with it. But once it is the law of the land, when it is common in the society, it's part of it. Yeah, it's the law. Well, in fact, the point I want to lead here is despite the presentation, the focus of the presentation and everything, sin is deeper than just that. The presentation touches on aspect or certain aspects of the failure of humanity, but it is deeper than that. And it's certainly not by taking dominion, certainly not by becoming more affirmative of ourselves that will solve the human problem. It is an aspect of social reality, social development, yes, but deeper is the sin that only the cross can solve. And so often I tell people, yes, it's true, the black and white issue, it's real. I don't close my eyes on it myself. But too often people define it as the problem of humanity. That's not the problem of humanity. That's one problem. That's one aspect. But the fact is, if in the garden, we got cut from God, we got separated from God, and that's the source of all the evil going around and in our heart. So even though I agree, I support a lot of things he said, but it takes the cross and Jesus Christ to change it all. And one thing I will mention, when he said innocent children, I automatically react to that personally. Because from a biblical perspective, we don't really have innocent children in that sense. Yes, innocent children. When they stop being innocent, at what age? Yeah, that's the problem with certain theology, alliance theology, where they think children are covered, children are saved. Yeah, all right. Okay.
I'm asking if in the conference, the speaker can Christocentric, like he did the time, conference, because I think it's open for everybody, Christian or not.
But he's the leader, Christian leader.
Christian leader?
Presenting, yes. He is a Christian leader. And yes, he's presenting the worldview based on the teaching of Jesus Christ, the teaching of the Bible. So you cannot escape.
Yeah, but he didn't try to do that. But the way to do it is not trying.
Yeah, because to tell you the truth, I was thinking about you while he was talking. I said, where's the Christocentric? Where's the Christocentricity? Where's the...
That's true. You're right. That's why I agree with you.
But again, Christ, his salvation really was really, even though that's why you're right at the end, but Christ was really, he was arguing intellectually about that, but Christ, he was very, really? Yeah, because Christ was really the perfect example. He
I think it was an audience, an open audience.
The people, the public people of public. So that's what he couldn't preach, he had to.
Is that a reason to avoid that?
You have the podium, and they know you are a Christian, and they know your background, know where you come from. Oh, come on. He's not trying to get a job there. Yeah, I think. Donc, il dit en pile bagaille, il dit en pile bon bagaille, mais pour moi, je ne sais pas ça. Hein? Anyway, anything else? It's almost tomorrow. Yeah, he leads people to think and to question yourself, to question your values, and he presents history very well. Yes. Yeah. But to a certain regard, myself, I need to keep some distance from him. Everything I watch, I used to study him and I use his material, but to certain degrees, I need to keep some distance. That's all I know.
A lot of information.
Yes.
You can't cover them.
No.
I had a procedure done this today, and I'm not sick. I don't have any kidney stuff. I'm okay. But I was never. Every 10 years you have to really have a checkup to see if your colon's okay. So today I went there. And, when they put you to sleep, you're very anxious. You sleep every day, it's okay. But when they're gonna put you to sleep, you're anxious. So before the procedure, I was overly excited. And I think my blood pressure was kind of high, and I had to really slow down. And then when they put me into the room, and then the doctor told me to stay on the side, and next thing I knew, I was awake. And it's 1 second, boom, you're out. Because they told me earlier that it would take 30 seconds to knock me out. So I thank God. I thank God that everything went fine. But more importantly, that my system is perfect. There's nothing there at all. And they gave me. My next appointment was in 10 years. So thank God for that, and thank God He answered my prayer and your prayers. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. We conclude. Ok. Eh bien, nous la prière. Papa qui est dans le ciel là, nous disons merci pour le moment béni ça que nous passons. Que nous entendons serviteurs ou Seigneur qui présentaient une réflexion sur l'histoire, réflexion sur la colonisation, réflexion sur le leadership, réflexion qui touchait tellement différents domaines, mais qui l'ouvre les yeux, nous, qui aide nous à comprendre dans quelle réalité nous vivons et source à philosophie qui a gouverné comment des sociétés côté nous vivons. Nous disons merci Seigneur parce que dans la vie où tu as toutes les ressources, et nous connaissons lever d'autres leaders, d'autres speakers, d'autres enseignants pour continuer le travail ça. Et nous disons merci pour la communauté qui était rassemblée. Et bénis nous. Et pendant nous le séparer, on va protéger nous, on va conduire nous dans la demeure nous. De façon pour nous capables de rejoindre notre famille nous, et pour nous capables de continuer à servir. Bénis chaque monde qui est là, Seigneur. Et que parole, ça nous entendez, discussion, ça que nous fait, capable de contribuer à bâtir qui est nous, bâtir réflexion nous, et solidifier foi nous. C'est dans le nom de Jésus-Christ que nous prions comme ça.